Hey, welcome back to the VHS Revolution show. I'm David Schumann, and today I'm not doing a rewind and I'm not doing a review. I'm doing an interview with a great filmmaker, Qasim Basir. His new film, To Live and Die and Live, opens May 30th. It's a small independent film, and it's really great. I had the pleasure of cutting the trailer for it. And so I asked Qasim to come on the show, and he did. And he's really great. He's a very thoughtful guy. We had a great conversation all about his film and about filmmaking and his influences. So I hope you enjoy it. Hope you get something out of it. As always, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the episode. Let me know what you think of the show in general. I'm still working on getting to 4,000 watch hours. That's my big goal. Thank you for supporting me. Enjoy the episode. Okay. Hey, man.
Hey.
So this is our first time talking face to face.
That's great.
It's crazy. So my guest today is Qasim Basir. Qasim has a new film, To Live and Die and Live. And I edited the trailer for the film. I was really fortunate to be able to edit the trailer. And Qasim and I
Edited the hell out of that trailer.
We've had a lot of conversations on the phone,
Yeah.
but this is our
Yeah.
first face-to-face, and it's great to see you, and thank you for being here.
You too. Yeah. Thank you.
This film was first shown at Sundance in 2023, so it's been over 2 years
Yeah.
since the film first
Goodness.
played. So what's been your journey with this film? How long have you been working on it?
So, as film goes, and particularly as film goes in this era where
Yeah.
we had dealt with, we're dealing with pandemics, we're dealing with strikes. We were fortunate enough to be able to shoot a film during the pandemic, which in itself was a whole nother level of shooting. But we got it done, and then we didn't get into Sundance, but then we got in like the next year, right? So like we had an option to sort of like try our hand other places, but we decided to wait. So that added another like year to it, and then finally when it showed, it was we were sort of out of the pandemic, but like going into the strikes, and a lot of companies were downsizing, and indie film was hit hard, and I know a lot of other filmmakers who just didn't sell their movie at Sundance, and we were one of them. And then the next year and a half after, we were close on a few deals and didn't happen, and just you look up and it's like a year and a half later, you're like, oh, gotta get this movie out,
Yeah.
And so
And was the film edited? Like, did you continue working on the edit, or was it done?
no, I think since the premiere we had two more edits. We ended up cutting it down like maybe 4 or 5 minutes from the Sundance cut, and we sort of really understood what was working, and wanted to, with fresh eyes, go back to it, and more of like how we felt about it than any critic or whatever. It was like, no, like let's get to these parts a little quicker. Let's really highlight the heart of the film, and so we did a couple more cuts of it.
So just tell us briefly what the movie is about.
So like growing up, as a black man in America, you tend to look at all the depictions of yourself on screen, and you're like, all right, I've seen a lot of depictions of addiction when dealing with the black community, but most of the time it's like crackheads or dope fiends under the bridge, like. And in my experience, the most people that I've met that were dealing with this issue were functioning, like just every single day, like popping mad pills, or drinking throughout the day and mixing their coffee with whatever. I thought it could be interesting to explore that in a character, and so I had my stepfather passed away sometime like back in 2017 or something, that year I came back from LA to go into Detroit and, so work with the family affairs. And, I remember how messed up I was about it, just both like psychologically and just, I had my issues with, I was out too late and all that, but definitely trying to drink away the pain, And so I thought it could be interesting to make a film about that, because at the time we were in this pandemic where everyone I know was like losing people, so
Yeah.
that topic in itself was just like, how are we dealing with this, like, how are
Yeah.
we dealing with this? I don't know tons of people who are dealing with it great, it's like, so let's make a film that where we can put a character out there who's dealing with it, and potentially like open a conversation, or give people a space to go and see something that resonates.
Yeah, it's interesting. The film is a, a lot of the film is about how different characters deal with not just death, the death of a loved one, but addiction in some form, whether it's their own addiction or the addiction of this main character, Muhammad.
I think people are interested in the deeper cut now,
Hmm.
like we all came up with these like, oh, boy meets girl, things are cool, like we fall in love, we find the one. And then suddenly you're like, wait, there's all these people out here that like think they're in love, but they have like trauma bonds. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they like they like recognize something in each other, but maybe it's something that like terrible happened to them when they were kids, and they see that and they're like, oh, like I feel something for the, but we argue all the time, but it's passion. Like, oh, what actually? Maybe it's that like that thing you recognize, but maybe you were both abused when you were 7 or
Mm.
9 or whatever, and you see that in each other. And in this way, you have these characters like, the love story in there is a tragic one
Yeah.
to a degree, that like these two are, minus drugs and alcohol, I don't know that they ever see, that they ever connect.
Right.
And I don't know that I see that much, but I see it a lot in real life,
Hmm.
where people are connected, and for a lot of different reasons other than like love, or like the 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 beneficial kind, And so, and all these connections in the film is like, well, how can we discover things through cinema that we don't necessarily like talk about, but we see all the time,
Yeah.
you know? People be in relationships, they be like hostages in relationships sometimes,
Hmm. Hmm.
You
Hmm.
like, it's like hostage situation. Like, oh, bro, making up for something that happened for,
Yeah.
bro is there because he's making up for something.
Mm.
And you can sort of see it in the posture and the way that they talk to each other.
Yeah.
I don't know how far you want to go with that, but
Well, one thing that I was really struck by about the film is that the characters are messy. They don't have just one problem. They have a lot of things going on, and even
yeah.
even some of the dialogue scenes, like they don't even know what to say to each other, and the movie is okay with that. The film is okay with the discomfort of life and the messiness of life and the messiness of these relationships, and like you said, this romantic relationship. How what was the process like for you writing the script and putting that together? Was that hard for you to stick to that, or was that easy for you?
No, it's not hard anymore. Like I
Mm.
don't care. I'm just like, man, I get to a place in my career where I'm like, all right, what, I'm just gonna write something that just says how I feel. It just
Mhm.
speaks to it, and so it wasn't so hard to say the things that we say in the movie, and it's some pretty intense things. And I was at a screening. We had a premiere. We had a few screenings the last few weeks. We had a premiere in Detroit. We had a screening in Chicago. We had a screening in New York,
Mm.
where they honored Sky as African American women in film, women in cinema.
Yeah.
They honored Sky. So we're doing these things leading up to the opening, and I watched it again. And I'm like, oof, like I really said all that, and it's like, all right, good, Good.
Hmm.
At the time I was, bringing children into the world. I was, we were making life, but also losing a lot of life.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Lost like literally all the patriarchs in my life, like my dad, like after. So I wrote this originally for my stepfather, but in the process of post, like my biological father died, my uncles died,
Wow.
So it was like you can't mince your words anymore. You just got to kind of,
Yeah.
and so this film does that. I don't care. It's like, all right, every other I know I've recognized that my perspective is unique, and you know, mm, I don't know who else is gonna say some of the things I'm saying, and
Yeah.
so I don't mind.
What was your experience like getting it made, given that you were really sticking to your guns in terms of getting that voice out there? Was it hard to raise financing? Were people on board? Did they see the vision?
Fortunately, I've made a couple films. I've been to Sundance before this one, so that helps. I can say to folks like, look, we can try to get there again. At the end, we did. So like, it's it's all it, it all balances out.
Hmm.
In the end, you're like, if I try to do this prior to that, maybe not.
Mm.
Maybe people don't get, or they don't. But the fact that Boy Girl Dream went there, and
Mm.
I could say to them like, truly, I think we could get back with this one. And so, and the fact that went to several different people instead of one or two, it was like we have multiple EPs who were which make it a bit easier to
Hmm.
to put out there, and to ask for lower amounts from each person rather than a lump sum from one or two. So
When you have these screenings in these cities that you mentioned, are you able to speak to the audience members afterwards and hear what their feelings are about the film?
that's one of my favorite things to do in this
Hmm.
business, is to really connect with audiences, like, because I don't know that like society has really like recognized how significant it is that like that you get to like be in someone's home,
Hmm.
like on a screen, to say a thing to them for an hour and a half. Like that is like, who are you going to invite into your house to say something to you for an hour and a half? Or if you're James Cameron, 4 hours, whatever, like
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing against James,
Yeah.
but who's gonna do, and we have that opportunity as
Yeah.
filmmakers, as even trailer you cut is like, our trailer's playing before Sinners right now, probably tonight,
That's
and
awesome.
that's like, we get to say something to folks who may identify absolutely with this character, and or who may have never seen this person in their life, but
Hmm.
can now identify with someone who's going through what Muhammad's going through in the film. And so the opportunity to sit and talk to people in Chicago and in New York about this thing, and to see immediately how it impacts them. This guy told me in Chicago, he was like, I had to walk out. He's like, I couldn't. And his wife is like, yeah, he had to walk out. And she's like, he's been through that same thing. It means absolutely, it means the world. They really got the women characters, and they were like, her choice to, and I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but like how did she make? She's like, you wrote her, because usually, you're gonna make the man like her sort of cater to, but she made her own choice. Like,
Yeah.
what made you,
Yeah.
like that
I know what you're
was,
talking about. Yeah.
and that really made them. They were really, taken, and they really wanted to know. It's things like that, which I'm like, well, yeah, I've always known, strong women. Like that's all I've
Hmm.
ever, like, I don't even know this whole push to be like, oh, we got to make women. It's like, that's, that's the floor for me, like the mom and three sisters, and just
Yeah.
what they've always presented to me as the kind of choice a woman would make. It's like, well, yeah, of course she would make that choice. That's
Mhm.
not a hard one for me, you know.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Muhammad isn't the only character in the film that makes bad choices, or choices that really affect others. It's
Yeah, yeah.
we're so used to films kind of holding our hand through emotions or even through plot points or backstory. And this film really doesn't hold the audience's hand. It really leaves it up to the viewer to figure certain things out, to really get invested in this character and what he's dealing with without always, tying up certain loose ends or giving you the answers. Can you just speak to that a little bit? I found that very striking and very unusual.
I think a film exists in three stages. It's in its written form as the screenplay. It's in principal photography, and then it's in post, where you really get to make the movie, and
Yeah.
there's all this stuff written, and then they started giving these performances, Eamon and Sky and
Mm.
Omari and Miriam and Corey, Dana, Trevina. I was like, oh. And then with Eamon, it's not much of a spoiler. It's just like he doesn't say much
No.
for the first like 15 minutes of it. Like
For the
that
first
wasn't
half of the
like
movie,
that.
he's
Yeah.
very soft spoken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until he gets to the classroom and like then he finally
Yeah.
but like it wasn't written that way. I
Mm.
saw what he was given when he came to Detroit. I'm like, I have it all here. I have it all here. I was like I was like I was like, let's go get that 90. Let's go get that 85. Like, let's get in there. Let's get the 125. Let's like get in his eyeball. like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like let's because he's saying it all. Like when we're that first shot of the film, it's just like, oh, I get so much of it already. Why does he have to say anything?
Yeah.
And then it became a play of a film is like a long song or a poem. Like you have this like you have the lyrics, you have the chorus, and it became less about words and more about imagery and feeling. And if you saw this movie, and it's a big thing in film school. I didn't go to film school, but I know everyone,
Mm.
a lot of people I know did. They're like, we watch films without words, just on mute, and I'm like, well, can we see this? And like our premiere in Detroit, we had some issues with sound, but everybody was like feeling it.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, that says something to me,
Yeah.
and so that's what it was. It was like, well, let me go with what's happening here, not like what's on the page. And we talked about it when we first talked about you doing the trailer. It's like
Yeah.
it's this redemption story. Will he reach that or not?
Hmm. It's interesting to have the first 15 minutes of the film be him in the club meeting Asia. They leave the club and they have their own little story that happens, and then she disappears from the film for quite a while. Did you always plan on starting the film that way, with this extended
Hmm.
sequence of the two of them getting to know each other?
I didn't know that they would be as dynamic together.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like when we were casting and we put them on a Zoom together, and just the way they like that dance was like, oh, because they just were talking about, they were kind of catching up. They didn't really know each other like that, but they were like, they knew all the same people, and they went
Mm.
to, they were in the same environment. And I just sort of cut, like they could have put me in the breakout room or something, because
Yeah. So you
I
saw that
just was
chemistry
like
right
sitting.
away.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
it was so cool. And Sky had never played a role like that. or at least that I had seen.
Hmm.
But there was something very, it was more about their dynamic and what I thought they could create when they were in person with the backdrop of Detroit that led to that.
Yeah, you and I talked about this when we were talking about the trailer, that Detroit is almost like its own character in the film. And, I got to be honest, I don't know much about Detroit other than what I've seen in, like, Roger and Me, or in an Eminem movie, in 8 Mile or something. And so, was it important for you to represent what Detroit is now and to show all the life and the vibrancy that it has?
Person, place, or thing should be represented in a balanced way. You talk about a city who probably like helped us win wars. Not probably, definitely, because all those missiles were built here when we were in
Yeah.
World War II, whatever. At a point, this city made 40% of the cars on Earth. Now we
Wow.
make like three, but like
Mm.
this government at some point decided that it's okay to ship those jobs to Mexico and China or whatever. And who suffered more than anyone? Detroit, right? And so
Yeah.
now it's like the butt of jokes, like, oh, we're gonna send you to Detroit. We're gonna, you look on YouTube, it's like the most dangerous city. I don't know. I don't think imbalance in any way is fair. Whether it's, you see an image of me on screen 1,000 times and 900 of them are negative. By the time you see me in person, I met a lady on a plane once. I was going to speak at like University of Alabama, about my first movie, and I'm sitting
Mm.
next to her. And she's like, she keeps asking me like, "Oh, where are you?" And I don't even really want to talk about it because I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And she's like, "Oh, I'm glad you're doing it because for people like," she's like, I didn't meet a black person until I was 17. I said, "What?" So she's saying to me, all she has, the only reference she has
Yeah.
is media, is film, TV, literature. And so what are those images saying? And that to me is the same thing about a city like this where it's got the blunt of foreign policies and the different things that were out of the city's control, but is now receiving the short end of the stick, I guess. And
Hmm.
so it's my aim to say, like when I came back here after living in New York and LA and just being like, oh, look, the city is putting itself back together. Like no one's telling that story. So if I'm going to tell this story of sort of a tragic kind of story, like at least make the background be beautiful.
So this kind of blew my mind. You wrote this movie, directed, produced,
Oh God.
edited, and you were the DP. Did you do anything else?
Nah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
So was that out of necessity, or like what why did you do that?
So I had after my last film at HB at Sundance, a boy, girl, a dream. I shot a oneer film that went to Sundance a few years
Mm.
ago, and from there I sold a show to HBO, that I had been working on for a while, and I had a sort of like this Searchlight film that, so I thought I was kind of set, and I sort of set up my life based on these things, and
Hmm.
HBO was great, and I'd worked with them for some time, and they had brought me down to shadow another director to understand how they do things. So I was down in Chicago when they were shooting Lovecraft Country with
Hmm.
Yan Demange, and like,
Mm.
I had a whole, it just like, oh, okay, I'm in the HBO family.
Yeah.
And the pandemic comes around, and inside of a month lost both things, um and I don't know anything other than like to kind of get back up. I
Yeah.
played football. I played strong safety, and I used to, I learned something, like I learned a lot. I saw Coog did a thing. Ryan Coogler, he did a thing
Mhm.
with the release of Sinners. He's been doing like there was a sports thing that came out, and I identified with it because it was like, on the field, like nobody cares, bro. It's like it's like what? He's a 200 pounds heavier than you. He's 300 pounds. You're 180. Like no one cares.
Right.
It's him or you. It's
Yeah.
it's me or you. And you, what what are you gonna do? Are you gonna like? Are you gonna go the other way? Are you gonna? It's me or you.
Hmm.
And if he knocks you out, you have 10 seconds to get up, if that,
Right.
maybe five.
Mm.
You can't cry about it. You can't. Are you
That's the
hurt?
game. That's the game.
That's the game. Are you
Yeah.
hurt? You're not hurt. Get up, get back into the huddle, get the
Mm.
play, and go back out there. Put
Hmm.
your mouthpiece back in and go back out there. So
Hmm.
I've carried that with me through this business. As a high school, we like for the first time in the history of our high school, we won every single game and went to the state championship. Only because like a bunch of us as 17-year-olds were like 16, 17-year-olds, we're like, hey guys, let's get together and work a bit harder this summer
Mm.
and like try. Let's not like no mass, no drinking, no smoking. A couple guys
Mm.
quit,
Mm.
because we made this pact, and I don't know even at this point in life, I don't know how we got to that, but we and it worked. Like it worked. We every week they were like, there's no way they're gonna beat this team. They're the best in the state, and we were like knocking fools off.
Mm.
And so I've taken that with me through life and been
Yeah.
like, all right, you have the opportunity of a lifetime. And at the point where it was like, all right, this is the moment we were gonna make an announcement. Like nobody even knows about this. Like
Yeah.
we didn't make an announcement or anything. It was just like, yeah, I'm working on this HBO show that I created for like a year and a half, 2 years. That the pandemic comes, which was nobody out of everyone's control, and we lose it. So anyway, all that to say, is like when I wrote To Live, it was like, well, let me try to make something that's as pure as can possibly be.
Hmm.
So like every frame, I thought about every shot, every lens. I was like, all right, and my shot list is crazy detailed. I have images for every single.
Mm.
I was going around just like capturing it all prior to shooting, and had an infant, or he was one or one and a half at the time, and a kid on the way, and
Mm.
there was just so much tied into that I just was like, well, let me try to be as pure as I can be with
Yeah.
this.
And what was that like physically on you
It was
doing
too
all
much.
of?
I would never do it. I would never do it again.
Yeah.
I would
Well,
never
because
do that
also the
again.
film is
It's
beautifully written, it's beautifully directed, it's well edited, it's beautifully shot. So, congratulations
well,
to you.
thank
Like
you.
it
I
all
appreciate
worked.
that.
You pulled it off.
I appreciate that. But I couldn't do that again. It's not sustainable. It was physically taxing. I was losing weight. It was like, and it's just too much to do for anybody. And it was a clear marker for me that, like, all right, you got to move on from this kind of filmmaking.
You've kind of touched on this a little bit, but you are really an independent filmmaker. And what is that like? What is it? What is the life of an independent filmmaker like in 2025 or in the 2020s?
Well, I don't know what other people are doing. you know, I can't
Yeah.
speak for anyone else.
Hmm.
I know for me, fortunately, I have made a career for myself as a writer and director, and I do a lot of different things I do different things. So I shot a documentary in the last year
Hmm.
with Confluential Films. I wrote a film with director Andre Gaines that premiered at South by Southwest a few months ago called The Dutchman. I'm working on some other things. I mean, I'm constantly I'm in. I have my hands in a lot of different pots. So it allows me, it affords me the ability to go and write my own stuff. But I don't know if I don't know. I've been very fortunate, but not just fortunate. I've done the work, and
Yeah.
it's I feel good about the work I'm putting out there, and
Hmm.
so it's very it's hard to say because
Yeah.
I don't know many other I don't know other filmmakers that exactly like me. I know some folks
Yeah.
who are writers who are doing getting these writing jobs. Some I'm up against. I'm constantly, my team is like putting me up for stuff, and there are directing jobs I'm up for there. And I know people in each of these spaces. I don't know many that are in as many
Yeah.
as me, but I think my history has sort of prepped me for this kind of work.
Yeah. Do you feel like, um, given the way that independent film has gone over the last decade, that you're very fortunate to have gotten a theatrical release for this film?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, indie film is taking a hit right now, in a big way,
Yeah.
and I was I just I express gratitude every day that I get to do this,
Yeah.
and in the end, it's all equal on the screen, you know. Like somebody on Friday, the movie comes out on Friday, May 30th. Somebody on Friday may walk by Mission Impossible and walk into To Live and Die and Live.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that, like, and I don't know. We could probably Google it and see they probably spent $275 million on that movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Their catering budget was probably the budget of our movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Their rap party, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But we'll be in the theater right next to them, and
Yeah.
not in as many theaters, obviously,
Sick.
you, but you can evoke the same amount of emotion from someone with something like this as you can with something like that.
Yeah.
And this is not a hit at Tom Cruise and all of them. I love all the Mission Impossible movies.
Mhm.
Um, I express gratitude every day that
Yeah.
I can still write, that still have ideas, that there are people willing to put my stuff out there, and yeah.
I think that the theatrical experience has been kind of skewed, or the idea of the theatrical experience, what it should be, what it versus like what it used to be. Obviously, this. It used to be like every movie got released, or
Yeah, yeah.
90% of movies got released in the theaters. So I remember, especially in like 1996 or something, seeing you know Romeo and Juliet or Independence Day, but I was also seeing Big Night. I was seeing Train Spotting. I was seeing these Swingers. I was seeing all these small independent films
Mm,
that were somehow kind of busting through in these little corners. And I think now, like Mission Impossible is a great example. So many people just think that the movie theater is just for big movies, but it's not. I mean, to
mm-mm.
see to live and die and live in a theater must be such a great experience because it's an emotionally enveloping movie. It's not just It's not just a movie theater isn't just about sound and explosions and banging you over the head. It's about this experience of seeing something emotional together as
Mm,
well. And I
yeah.
think it's just so great that that people get to experience that. Can you just talk a little bit about the casting process? I know we talked about, you said about the meeting between Sky and Amin on Zoom, but can you just talk a little bit about the process of casting all these great actors?
Yeah. So shout out to legendary casting director, Twinkie Bird, Tracy Twinkie Bird, who's done, some of our best movies of all time. And, you know, sh it was a combination of, me leaning on relationships, people I've worked with before. I've done a movie with Corey Hardrick, and I've done film with Omari. Miriam Basir is my sister,
Hmm.
in real life. And, so it was like that, it was
Hmm.
like, it was one of those processes of all right, let me go back to my roots. And again, after losing a show, HBO, you're like,
Yeah.
let me go back to my roots and not like just sit back and let this, you know, derail me. I'm gonna lean into what I know I can do, and
Hmm.
I know I can write something and pull some people together and make something that can potentially be compelling. And so
Yeah.
it's literally was like making calls, Twinkie making some calls, giving suggestions for folks, and that's how it came together.
I don't normally get to talk to filmmakers that I do trailers for. I was just wondering, what was the process like for you from your point of view? I know you had cut your own trailer before I came on, and you guys were really attached to that. You really liked it a lot. And I came in and did something kind of different. I just was wondering, like, what was the process like for you to see your film presented in that different way that I did?
Well, like I said before, I'm really moving away from doing everything.
Yeah.
Like I can't do it anymore, and I don't think it's the best way for
Hmm.
me. And I've begun to, with making a few films, and if you're really about the work and about the film itself, because there is you, the filmmaker, but then I think when there's a film, it should be about the film and what's best for that, and putting your ego aside, and really I want to focus on writing and directing. That's it, you
Hmm.
know. If I never produce again, I'll be fine. Like, I don't. I learned these things. I used to work in post at a commercial spot, so I learned a lot of
Hmm.
editing. So I know how to do it all. And if but and so you begin to show people and the trailer, and I have a lot of different. I have my team, my manager, agents, and I'll just show it to random people, friends, the producers of the film, the EPs, Tommy, Nina, Sam, Dana, Offenbach. It's like,
Hmm.
and the response was kind of like it was okay, But then I would see some people were just like, oh, that's cool, and they were just sort of trying to, and I'm like, this isn't. I don't know that this is getting it. I think an important part for a director is to sort of see where your blind spots are. Maybe you don't see everything. I'll listen to anybody. I'll listen to PA. I'll listen
Hmm.
to whoever.
Yeah.
Um, but then I sort of let go of that, and even the distributor was like, well, you did your thing, but maybe we need to. but then and I was very nervous about it, and but from the time I saw the first cut, it brought tears to my eyes.
Mm.
You
Hmm.
know what
Yeah.
you cut, and I was like, oh. and you know, that's the thing. Things Something can be good to this day. I think my trailer was good,
Hmm.
but yours was the one that needs to be out there. You know.
Mm, that's great. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm happy to have been able to work on it for myself, and because I love working on dramas. Most of the stuff I work on is like action or event movies, and it's really just so refreshing to work on a great character drama. And it's
Mm.
also a little bit of pride. Like, I said this to you and Dana, like, this is your baby, and I'm taking your baby
Yeah.
and I'm doing something new with it. Uh, and, you never know, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. And also, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is the music in the film. The music is so beautiful, and both in the songs and the original compositions. Can you just talk about your composer and what your motivation was for the music in the film?
Yeah. I don't. I've always felt like. I mean, so like I write to music, you know,
Mm,
and depending on what I'm writing, it will determine the kind of music that I'm listening to. So like whether it's Johansson, you know,
mm-hmm,
rest his soul, to Hans, you know, Hans Zimmer, and I could go down the list, but I've listened to all these folks who while writing my own films, and from the time I uh, I was writing to live, you know, it was always this sort of violin, cello kind of like deep thing that was going on with me. So when I heard what Maxim was presenting, it was like, oh, this is the thing, you know, like this is like take this, and how can we like make it into, you know, different, pull out different parts of it for different pieces of the film and different things that he was going through, different characters, and like, but then like it became deeper into, because there's a couple people on it, you know, that represent different aspects of the film, and there are tracks that represent different elements. Because when it got sort of dark for him, in the way of, you know, what he was going through, I don't want to give away too much of it, but then it was like there needed to be like these drones that sort of like that like that touched on these deeper parts of ourselves that, you know. So yeah, music is so important, like music is so important to me. And the composition that these folks had came up with, are I'm so grateful for that, you know, that they were able to kind of see it, you know, and put this stuff out, uh, in the way that it meshed so well with the film, you know.
For some of the film lovers who might be watching, what are some of the titles of the movie scores that you would listen to while writing?
I listen to the score for Sicario
Mhm.
when I'm writing certain types of movies. Sicario was Johan as well, but then he also
Yep.
has,
Arrival.
oh my God, Arrival, bro. Like that's Twin of 12, 12 of 12, like that. The one, what is it called? 12 of, the title is escaping me right now, but the
Hmm.
specific one, I have that one on like repeat. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. One that folks might not be as familiar with, The King,
Mm.
and so he's been doing his thing lately. The Revenant score
Mm-hmm.
is something that I
Brutal.
always go back to.
Yeah.
Alex Brutal, yeah,
Nicholas.
Nicholas Brutal, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant. But you know, the Dark Knight stuff is just
Yeah.
is crazy. You know
It is.
what he does with, I mean, just like from the Dark Knight to the Dark Knight Rises, where it's like that first, those first few songs are just like, and then it's just like, and
Yeah.
and you're like what it evokes in me, man. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I just be in the car, just like, mm, and then it'll start to come. So that like literally brings words alive in my
Yeah.
head. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like, it opened my world up to different kinds of music. Because at that point, I was like, it's just like hip hop and R&B. And I remember I would like listen to stuff like that, and I would be in Detroit, and I was kind of embarrassed, and I would like I would like turn it down when I was at a light, because people would be looking at me like, what the I mean, I don't care anymore, but I used to be very like aware of what people thought about me.
One of my
Yeah,
favorite Zimmer
but
scores is Interstellar.
oh God,
It's
don't get
incredible.
me started on Interstellar.
I don't love the movie, but I love the score, and I could listen to this. I probably listened to the score hundreds of times. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I listen to I'm also like I'm writing this AI movie, like a
Mm.
artificial intelligence, and I listen to I listen to Interstellar. I listen to um Daft Punk did the thing for
For Tron.
Tron, yeah, and
Yeah.
new Tron coming out.
Yeah.
So like it's like
So
and it
good.
gets me in that kind of digital world. It's like,
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
Tron, and I know they have a new one, and it totally takes me there. But then there are artists who aren't, who I think they'll probably get into it, but there are artists who have stuff that's sort of in that vein that I listen to as well.
Okay, I have one last question for you. And given that the show is called the VHS Revolution Show, and as you can see
Mhm.
behind me are
Yeah, see, I'm looking
hundreds of
like, yeah.
VHS movies, what are some of the movies that inspired you growing up or influenced you in the making of this film?
Oh man, coming to America, you know,
Mm.
I literally think I saw the like it's I hate to say it, but the first boobs I ever seen on
Uh-huh.
on the
Yeah.
screen on that
Yeah.
movie. I was like, I was like,
Amazing.
and just how funny it just was so funny. I mean, it's just like that has the most classic lines
Yeah.
there ever were, and um and I identify with that character of like being sort of naive in this world. Like I was kind of late to everything growing
Mm.
up, like
Mm.
growing up how I was. We were sort of sheltered, and like I found out about stuff mad late.
Mm.
And people were like, "You don't know about this?"
Right.
Like, so I identify with Hakeem, the
Yeah.
character, and just like he was like, I don't know anything. I'm in New York City. So in this way, that's one. And then I think Jurassic Park was like one of the first, like, oh my God, like you can do this on
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
You know, that was like that took me, oh, those dinosaurs and those characters, and just that took movies to a whole nother level for me.
Yeah.
Braveheart was
Mm.
like a film that I watched probably 50 times, just because
Mm.
I would watch it before football games, you
Mm.
know, and I would put it on, like it would give me like energy. And
Yeah.
Gladiator 2 was like that.
Gladiator 2 or
No,
Gladiator as
Gladiator
well?
as well. It was like, I'm like, no, that's no, it was cool, but it wasn't on VHS. But like,
Yeah.
I remember Braveheart when I was a kid. Just kind of
Yeah.
that was very inspiring for me. But the movie that we're talking about, primarily Malcolm X, was the one that I really saw how much of an impact movies could have.
Yeah.
We are of a generation who was maybe one of the first large generation of Black Americans to be raised as Muslim.
Mm.
Which
Mm.
almost all of our parents were inspired tremendously by Malcolm X.
Yeah.
My mom is from Natchez, Mississippi, grew up in Church of God in Christ. Like it wasn't written that she would sort of change her life and become
Yeah.
Muslim, and raise her
Mm.
kids that way. So that, so it already sort of had some ingrained influence, but to watch it and see, that movement happen after, it was like, oh, this is what movies can do.
Yeah.
That's what Malcolm X meant to me.
I have a lot to say about Malcolm X, the movie, and I'm going to save it for our conversation, but it's right there. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go. Um,
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, the reason it's called To Live and Die and Live is I'm a big Kurosawa fan, like so many of us. But I had rewatched, like, right after that period of losing my HBO show and all this. I'd rewatched Ikaru, and their Ikaru is a film about a man who his dying wish was to get this park built in this community in Japan that was sort of desolate and crime, and he felt like a park would give a playground, like would give people something to do, the kids, like, and there was all this bureaucracy involved, and not to give away too much of the film, but he dies pretty early on in the movie, and the rest of the movie is about how everyone else feels about him, and they're giving their commentary on what he meant in their lives, and like, and that's what my stepfather was, to the city of Detroit, and like, and he built and repaired homes in Detroit till he died. So like a week before he died, and so that piece of Ikaru really resonated because he's never alive in the movie that I made, but you hear people talking about him, and so that's to live and die and live. You could die and live on through how people feel about you, what people say about you. And the title Ikaru in English means to live. And so that's literally, like, it's not a remake, but because there's a lot different, but there are certainly elements of it, and including the title itself. And I didn't want to name it exactly after Ikaru, but yeah,
that was your little nod to it.
yeah, it was my little nod too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that seems like a good place to end. The film opens May 30th
Hmm.
in theaters. People who love independent cinema should really seek it out. It's really a special film and is very rewarding.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Is there any last thing you want to say about the film?
No, I mean, just to you can go to tolivethefilm.com,
Hmm.
and it'll show you where it's playing, and
Great.
you know we do well opening weekend, we expand. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you working on next?
I'm doing a few things. We shot a documentary with Hill Harper ran for U.S. Senate, the actor Hill Harper in Michigan, and we shot a doc on that with Confluential Films, who's also involved in this film, To Live. I'm working on The Dutchman, which just premiered at South by, which will be coming out sometime later this year. I'm working on a project about Detroit's historic mayor, Coleman Young, a show, TV show, and I'm working on my next spec, or sort of like thing that I've written, but it's much bigger. It's like a dealing with AI, and it's kind of like a her. It's like her. It's like her meets Ex Machina meets Black Mirror or something like that. But like with like, but like a character driven thing too. Because I'm keeping the soul of my characters, but like packaging them in a bigger sort of world.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, given how much your voice comes through in this film, I have a feeling that whatever you do in the future is going to have your unique voice and is not going to be, something generic. It's going to really stand out. So
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing what you do next, man.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, David, for working with
Yeah,
me.
man.
It's been a pleasure, and it's it's a good thing when you can find some synergy in this business. And from the
Yes.
time we first talked, and what you found in that trailer, really says that we have that. So,
Yeah.
appreciate you, man.
Yeah, you too, man. I love knowing you, and I'm really happy that we know each other and have worked together, and I hope that we can work together in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I look forward to talking to you about Malcolm X in a few weeks.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah. All right,
Cool.
dude. Take care.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that was my conversation with Qasim Basir. Thanks so much, Qasim, for coming on the show. I'm putting a link in the description to the trailer if you're interested in checking it out, or you can just go check out the film. Just go to tolivethefilm.com and you can see where it's playing in your area. I'm going to have Qasim back in a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about Malcolm X, and I'm very much looking forward to that conversation. So thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.